Peace to the saints. Today we got some critical game here that's going to help you with daily life for the rest of your life. We have to know that as a basic, the average male and female in the society, they are thoughtless beings. They speak without having first meditated on what they're saying, particularly when we consider the female. She is one who is inclined to speak while thinking, which is to say that there is no delay between her thoughts and her speech unless she is engaging in manipulation or dishonesty. Otherwise, there's a direct flow. What is worse is given the level of emotionalism that rules over the immature male, the child, and the female, you're going to often hear them say things that may be true at the moment, temporarily true, but are not necessarily true in the long term or the grand scheme of things. Inasmuch as that is the case, you must know that you cannot take their words so seriously, for that word might be true today and false tomorrow. I'll give you a number of scenarios, many of which I trust you've personally experienced. And when you have this understanding, you'll be able to interact with the female in a way that is more confident, in a way that shows that you have significant wisdom and experience. And most importantly, you'll be able to achieve your outcomes with that female with much less friction. So, to start, let me first point out to you that you may encounter a woman and take her out on a date, and then you might have the good fortune of bringing her back to your place of residence, or more ideally, to the penthouse. And when you arrive, you engage in a little bit of conversation, couple distractions, and then eventually you go in for the kill. As you're proceeding to go in for the kill, she confronts you with a number of words, all of which are untrue, and most of which she doesn't mean. She's just trying to maintain some level of dignity and make you think well of her. She might say things like, I've never had a one night stand before, or, quote, I'm not going to have sex with you, or I didn't intend to come over here, or fill in the blank with anything that suggests that the inevitable is not about to happen. If you're an inexperienced youth, you might buy some of these lies. You might be deterred. Now, the great irony is that though she might say something to the effect of, quote, we're not going to have sex tonight, or we're not going to do anything, in reality, in many cases, there's nothing more that she wants than to get her back blew out. You must also consider that in some cases, the woman actually doesn't know what she wants. Well, sometimes you don't know what you want till you got it. You dig? For example, you ever been at a restaurant and someone's like, hey, you should try this dish. And you're like, nah, it's not really my style. It's not my taste. Then you try it, like, that's fire. The same thing can be true with the female. So what I'm saying to you is that sometimes they say they don't want it when they do want it. Sometimes they say they don't want it, they just don't know. But one thing I'm certain of, and this is consistently true, is that the female is not speaking the truth. On a consistent basis, they are not speaking the truth. Even when you have a conflict with the young lady, say, for example, you're cohabitating with a woman and you're going to go on a business trip or a holiday, and she's angry that you're going on this business trip or this holiday, and she says to you, you know what, while you're gone, don't say anything to me, don't call me, don't text me, I don't want to hear anything, just do your thing. When you get back, then we'll talk. Well, you take her at her word, and then you leave on your business trip or for your holiday, and you don't reach out or communicate at all, only to find that maybe a week into your trip or however long you're gone, a couple of days in, you get an email or a text message. Hey, don't you miss me? Why haven't I heard from you? Well, you haven't heard from me because upon your word, I've respected it and not contacted you. She said that, but she didn't mean that. She said that from emotion. So the reality is that what they say, it's of little value. Now, you be a real boss if you're able to engage a female in a masculine way and you let her know what it is. You see, it's like partners in ballroom or dancing salsa. The female wants to be led. The female wants to be led. Even when they confront you with a masculine veneer, they still want you to break it down, dominate, and lead them. Huh? Yeah, you don't have to tell her what she's saying is a lie. You just have to engage her with the confidence of wisdom of knowing what's going to happen in the long run. For example, I've dealt with chicks and then they display a certain behavior and I tell them, not. I'm not going for that. You're going to behave this way if you're going to deal with me. And guess what? I'll deal with you, next week when I get some time. And then they say something like, "Oh, I'm not interested anymore." Yeah, okay. I'll hit you up next week. We'll go out. We'll go have some dinner. We'll have a good time. They're like, "No, I don't want to hear from you." I'm like, "You do actually. I'll hit you up next week. Goodbye." And they're probably wondering, like, why is he so confident? Not my first rodeo. I know how this goes. Number two, they're wondering, like, how is he telling me what I'm about to do? Because I'm running things. Yeah, I'm actually running things. You're running your mouth. I'm running things. I'm running the affairs here. That's how I know. Then what happens next week? You hit her up. "Hey, shorty, I'm going to pick you up at 8. We're going to go do X, Y, and Z. Okay. What should I wear? Yeah, they own the program. Why? Because everyone wants to be led. You think that everyone wants to have an opinion. That's not the case. You think that democracy is a natural thing. That is not the case. What is more natural is monarchy, hierarchy, dictatorship, authoritarianism. You ever hear a woman say, "I just want to be taken care of"? Does taking care of only mean financially, or does taking care of also mean that you want someone to run the program? But here's the caveat. Yes, they want a man to run the program. They want a man to run the program who knows what he's doing. He knows how to run programs. So your chief responsibility as a great leader is to know how to operate and to be a great thinker, and even better, a great executor, to be a doer, one of action. Oh, and she's going to respect it when you show up with the plan. See, the issue is that she either encounters jokers who don't have a plan, or she encounters jokers who speak of plans but don't know how to execute, and they have a lack of confidence. That's why the woman can't follow, because she's followed some other goofballs to destruction. But when you show up with a firm plan and you let her know this is what it is, and I'm gonna stand where I stand, you ain't gonna knock me off my pivot, and you can forget it, huh? Yeah, she's gonna back down, because here's the thing. People in general are feigning confidence. To experience true confidence, which is backed by competence, is rare. Huh? And she is going to respect it. All that bluster and masculine, veneer that she confronts you with, it's fake. Why is it fake? Because how can you have any real masculinity behind this veneer when you are a woman? You are of the feminine. Huh? So there's no toughness. There's no strength there. It's all pretend. Yes. And their word means very little. You'd be a fool to take them at their word. I'll give you another example, a true story. I found this to be comical. I was out at a nightclub in San Francisco with some of my fraternity brothers. This is actually after I graduated. So it was a number of guys who were recently graduated, and a couple of guys who were still in university, and a couple of bad chicks that we had dealt with in the sororities. Some that were still in university, some that had graduated. And we were out, doing our thing in the club, having a good time. We were rolling pretty deep. And one of the sorority girls was being pursued ruthlessly by this kid in the fraternity. He was still enrolled. Upper class white kid, real fratty type of guy, and he's on her tough. So he's pursuing her in the club, trying to get her to dance with him. He's like grabbing her, and she's kind of like acting like she doesn't want to, and she's kind of like wiggling out. And I'm observing the whole thing, because having been the founder of the fraternity and the president for several years, you always feel a responsibility to these men, and you're the leader. People look to you as the leader. You have to, make sure that everything is in order. So I'm watching it. And another guy that was in the fraternity, one of the early founders as well, he's watching it also. He was, "Are you going to do something?" I was like, no, hold on, not yet. He's like, "All right, well, it looks like it's inappropriate." I was like, no. I think she just playing with it, which is to say, out of her mouth, no, no, no. Even a little subtle body language is no, no, no. But with the female, her being a crooked character, sometimes no means yes, sometimes no means maybe. And I know this runs contrary to what you hear about all this consent stuff. Now, consent is of a legal matter. I'm speaking of the natural interactions between male and female. It's a game of cat and mouse. It's a game of pursuer and pursued, hunter and prey. And in fact, the female enjoys this dynamic, and that is why they put up the fight. And in many cases, it's a pretend fight. So I'm telling my partner, I was like, nah, not yet, not yet. I think he got this. You heard me? I ain't about to throw salt in the game. I think he about to convert. He wearing her down. Shorty really needed in her life, or she wouldn't even be out here. She's single as hell. You know, they're both young, upper class white kids. I think this can go. So we keep watching her. He basically stalking the broad around the club. Now, a clown who doesn't have a woman, who doesn't deal with women, who doesn't understand women, and who is himself feminine would be looking at this like, oh, this isn't right. No, it's totally right. And so I'm watching homie, he on her tough. Then I mess around and end up, getting on my own thing. I'm dealing with, with some other situations in the club. I turn and look back 5 minutes later. I took my eye off them. I look back 5 minutes later. They over here making out. Yeah, they slobbing each other down right there on the dance floor. So it went from a situation of feigned resistance. She doesn't even want to dance, to now her throat is halfway down the boy's neck. Her tongue is halfway down the boy's throat. So this is a very clear indication of how things tend to go between male and female, but it's that consistent, confident man that's going to get things done. And it's because he had a knowledge of what could happen in that situation. He had the vision. You heard me? And she followed him along on that vision. Here's the thing. When you know, when you got the goods, you have to proceed that way. And women like that. There's something very attractive about confidence. And there's also a greater confidence you have when you have wisdom. Sometimes you have the wisdom of years. Like at this point, I've experienced, I know for sure. When I was a young man, I had the wisdom that was given to me by men who were older and experienced. You dig? I can even recount one time to you when I was doing business in Cincinnati. And I had an office there for my tech company. I was also at the time starting a fashion brand for women in particular, women's wrap skirts. Not one size fits all, one size fits most, because a lot of these chicks out here are fat. Anyways, I had some models come through the office to shoot. Not this one model come through, red bone, young lady, very attractive, woo, fire, pure flame. Anyways, we did the shoot, and then, during the shoot, I actually needed to get her some undergarments that would look best under this particular skirt, which was a bit sheer. So we actually hit the mall, had a little bit of extra time, a little bit more flirtation. I was like, okay, this could go. Got back to the spot, finished shooting the photos, and then made out a little bit. I tried to escalate it. And a lot of chicks, that this is very much so a fantasy for a female, dealing with bosses in their office, you dig? And getting maxed out in the office. These are the things that women like. They unfortunately, them being super freaks, most all of them, this plays into a fantasy. So I was like, all right, cool, she about to get her back blew out in this office real quick, but it didn't pop off. Anyways, I remember I called up my man. So I was like, bruh, man, this little thing is fine. I'm trying to get it in. And he's like, don't trip, you got it, you gonna get it. And he was so certain. You sometimes find people in this world are certain because they're certainly idiots, but in other cases, they're certain because they've seen the chessboard enough times to know how these pieces are going to move on the chessboard. So he was right. Next thing you know, I'm, a couple days later wearing it out. Easy work. So I say that to say that wisdom gives you a calmness. It's a calmness that, like, for example, when the woman's yelling and cursing in the midst of the argument, you're calm because you already know how things are going to go. Or when she's saying she doesn't ever want to see you again, she hates your guts, you're calm because she doesn't really hate your guts and she absolutely wants to see you again. And because you know what's going to happen in the future and what the future holds, in the present, you can behave according to that future, which is inevitable. May I acknowledge, or let me say, per our tradition, let us show love to those who show love to us. So may I acknowledge those of you who have been supporting the work, and I truly do appreciate you, for this game is A1, and it's been that way from day one. Oh, and by the way, I would also like to remind everyone that I am indeed the intellectual leader of the entire YouTube, and I got a live session I'm going to list soon, and you will see the evidence. Mine, I'm not even gonna speak on it. Let's get back to the folks supporting the work. Shout to Vilken, he writes, Peace to the Saints. I just watched your recent Patreon video titled Exercising Appropriate Selectivity. How could a young man like myself, for example, who works a 9 to 5 job making between 20 to 34,000 annually, leverage his power to a woman who's at the same level of income but is looking for something better? Well, number one, she can only pretend as though she's looking for something better. If you're working at Walmart and she's working at Walmart, then she's a Walmart worker. You heard me? So at some level, she accepts that as a concept. So you're in the game. Don't ever think that you're out of the game. If you work at 7-Eleven and she works at 7-Eleven, y'all both at 7-Eleven. You're in the game. Understand, if she was so psychotically focused on dealing exclusively with men above her or ballers, she wouldn't even be at Walmart. She wouldn't even be at 7-Eleven to be in your midst. So this is a lie. And again, keeping with this topic, this is what comes out of her mouth, but this is not what is necessarily in her heart and soul. And so you definitely have room to operate. And regardless of whether you're working at 7-Eleven, CVS, or Walmart, to maintain your own self-respect and self-dignity is absolutely critical. Because the truth is, Walmart is where you go to work. That is not an entire representation of who you are, the man that you are, your ambition, your credit, your merits, and things like that. He writes, believe me, I'm doing extraordinary things physically in the gym and mentally in the books, but just not on the financial level yet. Peace of saints. Yes, indeed. And that's how it happens, especially when you're a young man. And at the end of the day, the greatest value that a woman wants from you is not financial. And sometimes they know that and sometimes they don't know that, but it's upon you to teach them. May I acknowledge Tamir comes in by a Cash App, writes, Peace of Saints Tuition. Truly appreciate the support. Shout out to the real ones. Oh, and by the way, shout out to the ballers. It's a beautiful thing to see the ballers around. I like to see abundance. Austin writes, may I have a Patreon message read sent earlier? Absolutely. Here it is. Austin writes, hope you're doing well. I'm doing fantastically well. I have a few questions and perhaps a video topic. Recently was watching an exclusive on Patreon entitled Live from the Blade. And you mentioned that you don't let your women kiss tricks. That's correct. This is an intimate and unnecessary thing. Also, it can cause, transfer of, certain unfortunate things that are going to, cause issues in the appearance of the lips. It's just not necessary. And most importantly, it's intimate. It's not going to cause her to fall in love with a trick, but it creates an unnecessary level of intimacy that opens up the gateway to that. This is called a girlfriend experience in that industry. He writes, I was smashing a coworker and we started to get passionate with kissing included. That's cool. Do what you enjoy. He writes, I didn't see myself sticking with her long term, but I feel like kissing really bonded me closer than I wanted to be. Well, see, here's the thing. You have to, as the Master Sun Tzu states, you have to be able to stir without being stirred. So certainly you want her to be connected to you and invested in you and bonded with you. But if you don't see long-term potential in her, then you have to go in with a serious mindset. A part of that occurs through your morning routine and your evening journaling. You have to decide what you're going to do. You have to design your life. And even when you're engaging in certain behaviors, you have to keep your mind still and sound. Now, understand this. You have to ask yourself, am I any better than a hoe? And I would hope that you are. And what I mean by that is that the reason that a P gets to manage a HOE is because he can outthink her and he has superior emotional intelligence. Are you better than a hoe? A hoe can, give you brain, give you a girlfriend experience with kissing, have intercourse, and then get straight out of your bed. Oh, collect your money up front, by the way. Get straight out of your bed, go do that with 10 more guys in the same day and have a grand total of 0 connections. Are you better than a hoe? If she can manage that emotionally, you should be able to manage that emotionally. But the other key is to not put yourself into unnecessarily challenging positions. In fact, in my notebook, which I have here, and I should probably put the link up for my other journal that I also use, sasnbrand.com. I have all of my notes. And one of the notes I have is stop doing difficult things. Sometimes we have these foolish ideas that we hear, on social media or just in common speak. I wrote, stop doing difficult things, which is not to say don't ever challenge yourself. It's to say some challenges are not worth it. They don't pay enough. You can make $1 million the easy way, or you can make $1 million the hard way. Stop doing difficult things. So that's what I want you guys to consider. Now, if you find that kissing a girl and not becoming attached is a difficult thing, then stop doing that. He writes, is there a difference between smashing a chick and making love? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Last chick I dealt with, we were for sure making love. You know, some chicks, that's the experience that they pull out of you because they're deeply feminine, or they're a good woman, or they have some characteristic that you like. There's something nice about them. And then other women, they bring this vicious demon out of you that is just some kind of wicked sexorcist, and you just pound them with no remorse and no regard to their humanity. It just is what it is. It is what it is. There's absolutely a difference between smashing them and making love. There's no doubt about that. Now, one of the beautiful experiences when you have a chick that you might be making love to, so to speak, this mode of engaging her sexually, and she becomes accustomed to this, and then one day you just flip the script on her and just ragdoll her. You heard me? They tend to enjoy this because unfortunately they're all sexual perverts. It's an unfortunate thing. All right, so how do I prevent making love to a chick who only deserves a surface level smash? Well, you have to remember that you're involved in the sexual process, and so whatever mode of intercourse that you like, that should be the one that you're engaging primarily. It's not I saw one person, probably is an incel, comment on one of the videos on the Saint channel, and he said, Marquette, aren't you rewarding bad behavior by smashing this chick even though she's a feminist? My first thought is like, gee, where do you get this silliness? It's like, are you not picking up the ism? Am I speaking in vain? The reality is this: she herself in the conversation said she's not a feminist. Undoubtedly, feminist ideology has poisoned that well. We could hear it in her speech and the terms that she uses. But more importantly, would I punish myself to teach her a lesson? There are no lessons you can teach this woman. She's a poisoned well. She's a fully developed adult. She's not open to learning. You can tell by the way she's speaking. So me denying her some pipe is not about to teach her a lesson. You heard me? The greater lesson is me giving her the pipe and then denying her what she really wants, which is the relationship. You heard me? The affection, the love, the regard. Now, as fine as she was, she earned that pipe. She needed that pipe. And she became a pipe fiend. And then after that, she was denied the pipe because the flag had been stamped, mission accomplished, and we carrying on because she's not worthy of a boss. You dig? The concept of punishing a woman, this is maybe for wicked men. There's no need to punish a woman. That's not my goal in life. My goal in life is to achieve my greater mission and to build fortune, which basically is an underlying requirement of achieving my greater political and cultural ends. So you get focused on petty things when you're a petty person, right? Punishing a woman. What do I look like? I don't need to punish a woman. It's just silliness. I'd rather have a woman who follows the program. With regards to gorgeous feminists, yeah, I'm going to break their backs, give them a good experience that they can remember for the rest of their lives, and kick them to the curb. Now they got a story to tell. Yes, that's what we're going to do. And if they want to somehow have a revelation, soak up some ism, and fall in line and follow the program, it's a beautiful thing. He further writes, is it wise to only kiss chicks who you seek long-term potential with? I mean, there are chicks I deal with long-term that I still don't kiss. Kissing is up to you. That's your choice on how you want to, execute physically. I just low key don't really enjoy it like that, to be just like out here kissing everybody. But that could be a result of my professions that I've been in my life experience, but that's just not how I'm moving. Not to say I don't do it, but it's not something I'm into. Guys, I'm not trying to be emotionally bonded to a girl who I can't take seriously long term. Yeah, so if that bonds you, skip it. But know that that's something that's going to bond them on the on the other side. That's something that bonds them, and it's definitely a tool and a tactic you could use depending on how you instrumentalize it. Lastly, he writes, next time I see her and she tries to kiss me, do I let her know why I'm not trying to kiss her, or just let it play out without explaining myself? Well, if you're going to have a radical change in behavior, some level of clarification might be appropriate. I would keep it extremely brief. And then when she asks for elaboration, I wouldn't give any elaboration. So there you go. But here's the key to life, is going in with a plan. So the more you can go into something with a plan, you're going to be effective. The problem is when you start playing the game without having had a play. You're supposed to be running plays out here. When you got a coach on the basketball team, hey, here's the play. Then you go run the play. You go in and start just trying to play in the game without a play. That's playing street ball. You're not playing NBA ball. That's where we need to be focused, is that NBA level of ball, not the street ball. Sometimes raw talent to get the job done, but I'd much rather have a play and run the play. And when you do that, that means you went in knowing the end before you began. That's the key, is knowing how it's going to finish when you start. That means that you're just executing on something that is predetermined. You heard me? Otherwise, if you're going without a plan, guess what? You're going to fall into her plan. And her plan could be to break your pockets. Her plan could be to lock you down with a baby. Her plan could be a number of things. So I'd much rather be on my plan than her plan any day. Shout out to Justin, comes in by